if I said to you, did you watch the old Lion King or did you like the new Lion King? Now, the new Lion King by far is cinematically amazing, graphically amazing. It's amazing. But more people will opt for the old Lion King when they're growing up. And the reason is because it's the journey back into our childhood.
Welcome to the Phase 4 podcast, inspired by Vishen Lakiani and Ajit Nawalkar, co-founders of EverCoach, a division of Vine Valley. In this podcast, we speak to coaches and creatives about where they were, where they are, and where they are going. This is an intersection of what we focus on expands, and your story is your superpower. My guest today is Craig Maddern. He is a stress relief coach for dads, and today we're going to talk about that, plus his book and much more. And Craig, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today. I really look forward to speaking and talking about my story.
Yeah, 100%. I'm grateful for you. And I kind of like to begin with, how did you become a coach and where did that start?
It started over the last few years, really. It was a natural thing that happened to me. I'm happy to go back into my story, but really the day that it really clicked was the day I started to help myself. I was running on empty and I just decided that, wow, look how much I achieved by learning of the skills and natural skill set that a coach would portray. So then I started to think, hey, I can help other people. Look what I went through. And there's people that'll be in similar situations or situations that they can relate to what I went through and I can help them. And I've always been that sort of person to help others. And it just naturally came about that I wanted to do coaching. It felt normal. It was almost like an electrical surge. It just happened. And I was like, oh, okay, this is clearly what I want to do.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of coaches, we begin with something happened to us. We figured out a way through it, felt really good, want to pay it forward to other people. And so that sounds like kind of what you're doing now. And so you kind of said about those tools, but what are some of the tools maybe that you use to either help yourself or your clients?
So really going back for me, the first, I'd say, tool that I used was just mindset changes and changing the way that my brain augments things and takes things in within reality. I use that with my clients at this moment in time, and it's a working theory. It's a working factor as well, and it's practical working. For me, it was the fact that everything I felt in life, if it was societal pressures about being a man, about being a dad, about being a civilian, from being a soldier, I was always second guessing myself. So the tool I used was perceptive biases and changing the perception that I look at things in life. And that really helped me. And a lot of the clients that I have and speak to when they first come into my program is a lot of second guessing themselves. They're almost, the limiting beliefs they have are crazy because they almost think they're not good enough as a father. They're not doing well enough, or they'll never make it. They can't make their dreams happen. And I'm living proof that that can happen. I'm living my dream. I'm living their dream. I've got a wonderful family. And it was all about switching my mindset from what it was to which was everything was doom and gloom. I was looking at the internet, and social media was pretty much a Bible to me. And it was like, oh, if that's what they're saying about men, I've got to change the way I am. And then something that was sort of really factored into me quite a lot, but it's resilience building. So a lot of my clients, by the time we've done a bit of mindset changing and we start to see things in a different light, you can't deny that in life there's still going to be challenges. So I started to bring resilience building training. There's so many different types of resilient building training, even if it is just problem solving, categorization of problems, journaling, anything you can imagine. I started to bring that into my clients, and it was such a powerful feeling because I knew I did it myself. And I can quite honestly say, and it probably sounds a bit big-headed, but I'm so resilient now. It's unreal. I can take so much stuff on my plate. And I started doing it with my clients. And by the time they got to 6, 7, 8 weeks in, they would either message me, and it was like a switch or a light bulb going on. They were like, this happened to me today. and my reaction was crazy. I just didn't react to it. I didn't overthink it. I didn't get stressed. My stress responses didn't turn on. All this normal things that were happening. Like, how did that happen? They can't even realize until it happens. They're like, how did that happen? So those are two major tools that I use, and then just a little bit of lifestyle changes. A bit of holistic coaching towards the end and that sort of stuff. But yeah, those are the main tools. Resilience and mindset for me is definitely changes, and I think it helps for men quite well.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. So this happened to me over Christmas where I thought like I didn't handle a situation well because I got really angry, right? It was family, it happens, right? And I got really angry, not out loud, inside. I was boiling. And at first I was like, man, I could have done better. Like, why did that happen? I shouldn't. Then I started thinking about it. I was like, actually, I did really good. Like I was inside, I was going nuts, but I didn't show it on the outside. And that's part of the emotional intelligence that he's talking about. And then resilience. The thing about resilience is that then you're saying before that it's social media. So we're looking at other people and okay, trying to compare ourselves to one picture, one moment. But really, everybody who you see on social media, they have their own things they're going through. And so resilience happens because you started producing evidence in your own life. And once you produce the evidence, then things begin to change. I got a quote about perception. I don't know if you know who Bruce Lipton is, but he says, the moment you change your perception is the moment you rewrite the chemistry of your body.
Yeah, and it's so true. It's amazing how true that is. Live it. You're almost to not catchphrase it too much, but you're almost living a lie for quite some time in your life, because we go off these. I mentioned as I was talking then about limiting beliefs. Like, we don't understand what they are, and unless you're a coach or you've done some sort of training, like limiting beliefs, like you don't really understand the full potential of what you can do when you start almost decreasing those and taking those away from the picture. So I completely agree with your quote that they use there, because it does just completely change the way you act as a person. And I someone said to me not long ago, like, you always smile, you're always so smug about being happy, and it's not. It's just you start becoming like you almost blast through the barrier that you never thought you'd get through. And yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Would you chalk that up to gratitude or?
Yeah. Like, I can't stop stressing. Ironically, I can't stop stressing how much I am happy than I was, and I'm talking like 12 months ago, maybe 13 months ago now. Where um I was literally at the end of my rope. I attempted to take my life twice within a space of a few months. I close family bereavements. I literally, all I could see was the black pitch tunnel that we all use as an analogy. And it only it took so much strength, that resilience that I'm talking about, and that perception changes to see the light at the end, until eventually I kept on going. And now I'd say I'm definitely in the light.
Man, I'm grateful that that never happened. I'm a really good friend. And when we were younger, he would always say, I would never do that. I would never do that. And then just last year, he did it. And it's because of COVID. Something happened to him during COVID. And I always think, man, what if you just picked up the phone and called? And so I'm definitely grateful that you didn't do that and that you're here now to share your story. And I think it's important to highlight that, because maybe there's someone listening to this who's going through something who could say, man, if he did it, I could do it. If that guy did it, he can do it. And it's never as bad as we think it is, and it's never as good as we think it is. And there's spectrum for everything. I'm learning this as I get older, that everything has a spectrum. And the best way to be is kind of bring it closer to the middle. So, man.
Yeah, 100%. I'm sorry to hear about your friend as well, because it's, I understand, I can relate definitely, and sympathize, never mind empathize. But I think, I'm sure you'll agree, as men, I can't talk for women, but for men, I find that for me, a long time, mental health was a myth. It was something that if something was going a little bit downhill for you, you're that roller coaster ride, you're going on a bit of a down, you just had mental health, you're just a little bit tired, you're a little bit exhausted. And I felt like, how can you have that? Just to use the old phrase I used to be like, oh, come on, man up, just get over it. Blah, 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 blah. and it is a slap in the face when it happens to you. And it's almost like you're trying to climb a ladder, but there's no strings attached, and you're just trying to keep on grasping until you keep falling and falling. And unfortunately, some people do hit the ground rock hard.
Yeah, the thing that comes up is suck it up. That's what I used to say. Hey, just suck it up. And
Yeah,
it's funny because like you're saying, as men, you're supposed to just keep it down and keep it inside. But now we know from certain books like The Body Keeps Score and people like Gabor Mate that no, you have to let it out. Otherwise, it's just going to come out as anger, violence, some other way. We've seen tragic events the past few weeks around the world. And
yeah,
yeah, no, we need to have that conversation. And then it's almost like it allows us to detach from it, but it's just a release, right? And you realize, oh, and because if everyone's sucking it up, nobody's talking about it, then you're like, is something wrong with me? Then you realize, no, man, we all have these thoughts sometimes and we all go through stuff. And the more you talk about it, the more you get it open, the better it's going to be for everyone. So I
yeah.
think
100%.
that will actually turn us to helping to other people like your clients. So maybe can you talk a little about your coaching? What does it look like and how you help people?
It's really has evolved since I started coaching. So technically, I started coaching about 5 years ago, but it was more group coaching and sort of business coaching to a certain standpoint. Now it's more one-on-one at the moment. I'm just sort of doing a rebrand at the moment into like actual dads, just because I used to do leaders, and I I can't believe how much I enjoy it. Like I generally thought when I was starting, I said my one limiting belief or my fear that I had was like, what if I get a bit bored of just doing coaching? Like just that's my calling in life, and not a chance that happens. So my coaching at the moment, I enjoy it so much. The dad, we have a great relationship. A lot of the dads, a lot of their stories differ. You have some that are having a bit of a broken relationship, great wives. Some people have, one of them I had wasn't actually a father. He just jumped on the program because he loved like the philosophy. But I have a 3-step program over 12 weeks. You've probably heard me to use 2 of these words today. So my first thing is the first 4 weeks is all about mindset. It's basically getting them in the mindset. For me, to use an analogy, if I wanted, I started going to the gym and my muscle mass is growing like immensely, but to get to the gym, I didn't just one day wake up and just slog myself to the gym. I had to be there in the mind. I had to be less stressed. I had to be in the right mind frame, the mindset. So I do this with the dads. I just make sure they're in the right mindset to even start like the harder bits, which is resilience and lifestyle changes. And I just change their perspective in life, especially like with social stresses, what they can do or what they can say to their family, how they can spend time with the kids. Believe it or not, kids are like little therapists. So it's really good. Then it gets to my second part of the program, which is like the week 5 to sort of 7 or 8, depending on the person. We look at resilience, like I mentioned, and it is just building them like, hey, guess what? You're a dad, you got a job, there's going to be stressful days, there's going to be stressful moments, you're going to have a stressful boss, you're going to have a stressful moment with your kids or your wife. It's going to happen. It's how you control that stress, because the one power you do have with stress is the way you react to what is actually happening. And that's quite a tough time. A lot of the time I find, I won't name names, of course, is tears start to flow at that time. They start to realize like how much they were breaking down and how close they were pushing towards mental health and how bad they could have got. And then my favorite bit, as you can see by the amount of times I said favorite, is definitely lifestyle at the end. So we do a lifestyle change, last 3 to 4 weeks. And that is just about, right, let's get all these small wins. Let's get these goals in. So the main goal is to obviously be a happier dad, less stress, calm, balance in life. But this is just my favorite bit because for me, it's like the cherry on the top of my program. It's like, let's get you, well, you want a new job? Yeah, let's try and go for this. Let's do this. It's like lifestyle changes that just makes them happy. And to quote somebody that I've just recently finished with, they said, basically at the end of it, they went, I don't know who I am. He named himself. He said, I don't even know who he is anymore. Like, I've never thought I could be like this. And I turned off the camera and I turned off the video, and like we had a little bit of conversation, an hour and a half. And I went over to my wife and I just sat down. I had a hanger in my mouth, like upside down, smiling. And she went, what's up? I was like, that was the best feeling ever. Like, if only more men would want to do this, or more men would want to reach out to men like us. And that's what a program looks like to me. Pure
Like,
joy. I love everybody.
oh yeah. I love that feeling, right? When you see the breakthrough. And
Mm.
I, I think doing the work, it's important, right? And this is why a 12-week program, it's not like you can just show up for one or two and it's done. The mindset, like you said, it has to happen first, because for me, I use this acronym all the time. I'm sure my listeners are sick of it, but it's called BIAS, and it stands for belief, intention, action, surrender. And beliefs first, because if you just don't believe, you're not even going to try. You might pretend like you're trying, but if you don't believe, you can do it. And it's all mindset. So I definitely love that. And then, yeah, those small wins are real nice. Um,
Yeah.
I'll go into this now. Usually I leave it for later, but the small wins kind of leads into it. I have a question that I ask everyone, and it is, because this is the Phase 4 podcast, Phase 4 in the 6-phase meditation by Vishen Lakhiani is all about creating your future 3 years out. So as we're talking about small wins and future vision, where is Craig Maddern 3 years from today?
3 years from today. So I want to have a sort of a more in-depth coaching, group coaching sort of group that I do on a more common basis. Like I said, I'm very aimed at the moment of one-on-one. I've had to take a bit of a step back because of a rebrand and what I completely want to do. So I want to see myself doing that, and seminars and, big, stages in Wales, where I live in the UK, or just in the UK in general. That's where I see myself for 3 years, because the one-on-one, love it. I love getting to know someone, building a relationship, but to stand in front of people, and you'll know what I'm talking about, is seeing those faces or lighten up or take that second thought. So in 3 years, I'd love to be doing that again, where I'm in front of people speaking and them just looking at you and going, wow, like I can't believe I haven't thought of this. So that's where I want to be in 3 years, coaching and seminars in groups and stuff like that.
That's awesome. I love it. There's something really powerful about groups, is that once you're in a group and one person becomes vulnerable and shares their story, it's almost like it's permission for everyone else to kind of follow suit. And I'm fortunate enough to see this week after week, where there's certain times where you could just step back and you don't got to say nothing for half an hour or so, because the other people are lifting each other up. And again, it goes back to speaking our story instead of keeping it inside, because once we see it, it's like, oh, that guy's going through the same thing as me, or that guy's been there. Oh man, I'm not alone. I thought I was doing this all alone.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Completely agree. And it's a magical thing. Like you said, you've done it week by week. I used to do it where you used to get groups and you talk, and then one person would say something and the room would just wow, oh, I'm not the only one. And I love that.
Amazing. And so you're also a best-selling author. Can we talk about your book for a moment?
Yeah.
Coaching.
Of course. Yeah. I'm really proud of my book. So my book was an accident in its way. I use the word accident, like faintly. Basically, I was going towards the coaching thing, and I wanted something to do to get a lot of stuff on my chest. I always say in my coaching days as well, like, write stuff down, journal. So I started it off and it just grew. And I was like, oh, I'm going to tell this story about how I was always in hospital. I got a pacemaker at the age of 30. And, what I tried to do to take my own life, how I lost 2 family members in the matter of a week over Christmas, just writing it down. It was almost like I was like, I need to write this down. And then as I was going through the book, I thought, like, but what did I do at that point in my life? Like, what did I do? Like, how have I got to where I am now? So what I then started doing throughout the chapters is adding a little bit of valuable sort of notions. It might be a bit of a stress tip, might be some quotes that help me, all that sort of stuff. So I then just put it on Amazon, and to be quite honest, I chucked it on Amazon. I told all my friends and relatives, and I said, look, this is on Amazon, it's on Kindle only, off you pop, go and support me, I guess. And I put it on LinkedIn, and that was about it. And then I had a message, or a phone call rather, off a friend, and they said, have you seen your position? You're on the top. But I thought you meant when you search it. I was like, well, yeah, most likely when you search the book, it's going to be at the top. And they were, no, you're at the top. So I got the hot sellers list, and I was top number 1 best-selling author for a few days. But a few days, just amazing. I don't care if it was for a few seconds. It was there, and I was proud. And then I got the email to say I was on the top, and I was just couldn't believe it, considering it wasn't really the initial plan. The goal was to get the book out, so it was just an added bonus, really.
That's so cool, man. What a great feeling. And for the coaching again, I guess, what do you incorporate? So we're kind of like touching the outsides here, but is it like mindfulness, meditation? Is you said you're going to the gym, so exercise, nature. What kind of things do you include? And do you have like a specific thing you're always going to, or does it depend on the person?
Is that just with the books, or just with coaching?
Just coaching, I guess.
It depends on the person. I'm very blessed because of my military career and a very diverse career that I've had. You do in the military, you do a lot of different things. You meet a lot of different people. You meet a lot of different nationalities. So I've almost become quite empathetic of a lot of different sort of standards within life. So it completely depends. Obviously, a lot of it is around stress. So I'm looking at stress management, stress relief. And like we've mentioned so far with the resilience, the resilience and the mindset. But it really, I do not believe in a pre-set program for a person. I like to tailor it to them. So like someone comes into me and says, I'm having kid problems, my kids won't speak to me. I'll tailor it around them on how they could be, and and get the answers out of them. And then if someone comes to me and goes, me and my kids' relationship's absolutely great, but I feel like work's stressing me out and I don't want to hurt my family with it, then we look at it more of a, what can you do at work? So it is really tailored to how they need it. I'm a big believer that everybody's different in a way, and I'd rather them walk into a program feeling like they have that flexibility for them.
Yeah, 100%. It has to be on them because everybody's different. Now, how about yourself? You must have a solid routine just from listening to you talking about muscle growth, talking about coaching in general. Do you have a routine that you kind of stick to, or?
Yes. Funny enough, one of my friends who may watch this, we were coaching each other. I believe in a coach having a coach, because otherwise it'd be quite hypocritical. So we were coaching each other. He said to me, like, what's your problem? I said, routine. So I've got and it's going to not make sense, I do apologize. It's a strict, flexible routine. So ex-military. So I'm very like, this time I've got to do this or this. But I just make sure to not put too much stress on myself. Is like, I know that I want to complete some tasks. So in the morning, I go to the gym, regardless of the weather, regardless if I haven't slept that much, I go to the gym. I'll tailor what I do in the gym to how tired I am or whatever. And then for the rest of the day, really, I just make sure that every time I work, I take 5-minute decompression breaks. And usually I just think about good things, or I'll think about a coaching philosophy or a book I've read recently with it. You just mentioned that quote, like a quote I like. That is just something I do every single day. And then in the evening, like I'm doing now, I'll do something to do with my coaching business again. And then I'll get some nice shut-eye sleep. Also, guaranteed, and it will not fail, I do a 15-minute spend time with my kids, which I have 3 things I do with them within those 15 to 20 minutes, depending on obviously the time we've got. But that's something I live by, is it 15 minutes.
I love it. It's important to have non-negotiables like that in the gym, man. This morning I woke up, I looked at the weather app, it's -14, and with wind it's at -28. And I said,
Yeah.
this should be the time of year where the gym is packed, but it wasn't. And I was like, really? All the people who come for the first 2 weeks aren't coming because it's cold? So
Yeah.
it was good for me, but yeah, those non-negotiables are important. I kind of wondering, I'm trying to get you to bring it out, but you're not. Is there like breath work or meditation or something in there? Because when we're talking about nervous system regulation, especially, the breath is so important, the vagus nerve.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so do you have anything?
Yeah. So one thing that I do when after the gym, so when I leave the gym, I either walk home or I walk to work. Depends if I'm working from home or if I'm out on the road or whatever I'm doing. So that time's about 10 minutes usually. So I then do a breathing exercises, which is 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds, 4 seconds out. Just because it's usually in Wales, it's got very cold ocean clear air. And at night, I've started wearing, it's sort of meant to stop you snoring, but you can hold it over your nose. And it just, yeah, she put it on your nose, and I just put that on at night and just breathe. And if I'm doing any of these affirmations, these 5 minute sort of thought processes, I just breathe slower. This is something I've had to do anyway. It was sort of forced upon me. So I've become like an expert at it and don't really think about it because of my pacemaker and my bipolar disorder and the mental health issues I had to do. I had to do it to keep calm and stuff. So it became second nature, really.
So you're doing the nervous system regulation and it's just normal for you.
Yeah, I don't think about it, to be honest. Don't even think about it anymore. Just do it.
And box breathing's huge. I think anything, just deep breathing, just something where you can shut everything out, right? Because there's so much coming at us. You talked earlier about social media. Like our brain hasn't evolved that fast, that there's like so much information coming at us. And if we don't take the time, then it is really easy to get overwhelmed, burnt out, stressed out. And it doesn't always mean you're unaligned. It just means that you're not taking a second for yourself, which, man, if you can't fill up your own cup, then you wouldn't be able to serve so many people the way you're doing. So I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I think, yeah, it's underrated. Breathing, even if it's just for a few breaks throughout the day, and it doesn't have to be so regimented, but at the same time, like at the beginning, you may have to think about it, become a conscious thing. But sometimes I find now that I'm doing it almost subconsciously. I'll lay down in my bed at night or something, and I'll think about something that I need to do or a small win that I've had in the day, and I'll just end up just doing it. I'll breathe through the nose, and it just happens. So yeah.
Beautiful. You're saying, I was telling my victim story with you earlier, and looking back at it, I remember I wasn't actually breathing properly. It was just short breaths. I was always crunched down in a chair or something, and just that alone, it's a world of difference. But I'm reading this book this morning. I just started this new book called How to Know God by Deepak Chopra. And it's a different take on the whole idea of God, not necessarily the religion, just universe, God, what its source, whatever you call it. But he calls the mind as virtual, the body is the physical realm, and then the spiritual is the quantum realm. And obviously it's way too much to go into, but just those three things, I was like, wow, that's great. Because the way he makes it up, great book, I recommend for anybody. But what are some of the books that helped you? Because you talk about reading a bit. Obviously, you're well read. So, what are some books that you enjoy that maybe somebody could start to?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, to be honest. There's quite a few books that I read quite a lot, especially as I was getting into the coaching game. But I would have to actually probably look at what I've read because I've got a tick box thing. So I would have to actually look. If you just bear with me, this is.
I know you're about to say leadership earlier. So, like Simon Sinek comes to mind when I think of leadership.
Yeah, so I've read that his was a recent book, Simon Sinek's, because just the way he portrays himself in leadership, and like for me, leadership it's such a huge thing, really, that I believe that is so well renowned in the mental health game, and for me, it's well renowned in my sort of walk of life as a dad, because, you know, sometimes you've got to lead from the rear, lead from the front, just the way he puts about like progressiveness, the way he talks about performance versus, you know, potential, all that sort of stuff. So that is a book I read mainly just to sort of, for me, it was to gather information that I thought, how can, like, sometimes dads are so, the work-life balance is so like endowed at work because work is completely fully stress them out, that sometimes if they can just push a little bit away from work and trying to become themselves again, and it's the same with the kids, if they get fully involved in that, then the work-life balance almost falls. So I was reading a lot of his book because he always talks about the work-life balance and, you know, going to work, being that leader, and that you don't have to be the CEO, you don't have to be a manager. A leader is a person within a group. It's not a job, it's a quality that you are. So that's definitely a few books that I've read by Simon Sinek. And apologies, I've got to just find the last one I read because I cannot remember.
It's okay. I think
names all the time.
You're not talking about Start With Why. You're talking about Leaders Eat Last.
Say that again, sorry.
So he has two books. One is Start With Why, like knowing your why. But you're talking about Leaders Eat Last, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's a brilliant book. So do you know who Che Guevara is?
No, I don't know.
It'd be like the Cuban revolutionary back in the day. If you ever go
Right.
to
Okay.
Cuba, everybody has flags and pictures of this guy. But I remember reading a biography about him, and he's the leader of the army at the time. He would always eat last. And the guy's like, well, why do you do that? You're the leader. You could eat first and the most. He said, no, no, you need to have the people that are following you. They need to be well fed, but they also need to know that you're a part of the team, right? Sometimes leadership, it's one guy stepping up and looking down. That might last for a minute, but it's not going to be sustainable. So just
Well, no,
thought of that.
it's yeah, 100%. It's obviously different types of leader. You got your authoritarian, diplomatic leader. There's loads of different types of leader, and I think in more of a modern age, especially as we look at being dads and accept, being men at work or whatever it may be, is that looking at how you become a multitude or flexible leader where you use the authoritarian at that certain point because you may be in a medical situation, for instance, and you need that authority, you need that person stepping over, do this, do that, very army, sort of old fashioned army. And then you've got, your diplomatic leader. It's like, okay, this is what we could do. We could do that, or we could do this. And I do that with my kids, like I feel like even at home with my kids and to retain my stress, I like to teach them and educate them. And I said, the little therapists, and from Simon Sinek and books that he writes, and not just his books as well, but it's just like short form content as well, not videos, but he'll do articles or publications on LinkedIn, or, you can always check him out. I think one of the powerful bits I read was, if you go home to your child, if you go home from a hard day at work, you going to explain to your child, and you had to explain how hard that day was, you're almost going to have to explain it to them where there's a positive side to it. So if you go home, you've had a really bad day, you're not going to go to your child and say, oh, it was really bad because of this. I hate this person at work. She does my head in, he does my head in. You're going to try and put almost like a childlike spin on it where, yeah, it was a really tough day today. Dad had to do this, but do you know what? And you'll automatically switch your perspective on the way you're talking to them. And that's why I always say kids are like little therapists, because of Simon Sinek and such authors. And that is something I do. Like, I'll go home and I'll sit with my son, and he'd say, how was work, Dad? He'll always do it. And I'll say, it was okay today. Yeah. Or, I've done this, or I spoke to a client, or, something went wrong or right. It could be a good day. And when I find that I'm putting a childlike spin on it, I'm almost telling myself, like, oh yeah, it may have been a tough day, but look what I did or what I could have done to overcome it. So sometimes just speaking to kids is like speaking to a therapist, because they are so intrusive. They're so intuitive with their thoughts. They're like, why did you do that then? Why is that bad? Why is that good? And I find it helps so much. So that's thanks to people like Simon Sinek as well, because it's just the way he puts like a spin on his books and his thoughts. So
Yeah, I love it. I talk to kids like that too, and I'll ask them questions. What do you think we could have done differently? How could we have done? And the kids will come up with stuff that we didn't even think of. It's like, oh wow, like you said.
yeah. Again, I think there's a book called Burnout. I believe that was one. It's Dr. Claire Plumby. It's either in that book, I believe, I read, and it talks about children and how in our nervous system, and how we're trying to like manage our stress within our nervous system. How you get stress responses, your release of cortisol and stuff like that. But I think one for me that the releases of oxytocin. And it's because we're always constantly trying to find moments of our childhood, even if it was a tough upbringing. There's things, and I can use an example of that, because if I said to you, did you watch the old Lion King, or did you like the new Lion King? Now, the new Lion King by far is cinematically amazing, graphically amazing. It's amazing. But more people will opt for the old Lion King when they're growing up. And the reason is because it's the journey back into our childhood. We grew up with it. And that's why sometimes as dads, mothers are more inclined to love the nurturing side, hugging your son when he's hurt, hugging the daughter when she's ill, whatever it may be. With the dad, he actually releases more oxytocin, and so do the kids when he's being silly, or he's playing with them, or he's doing something that he would have done back in his childhood. It's just the way we operate biologically. And again, from these books, it just reminded me. So with my son, we have such a very, very strong bond, where I think the mum's getting a bit jealous at this point. You won't mind me saying, because we've got such a strong bond. And that is because I will show him stuff from my childhood, not force it upon him, but just show him. And he's like, wow. And so kids sometimes definitely the answers to just relieving your stress. But a lot of men and dads out there that I do help at the very beginning, when we're looking at the mindset, they think kids are the causes of stress. And you can't argue against it, but you need to look past the curtain sometimes and try and figure out how you can be with your kids and not feel stressed.
Yeah, I heard Dr. Shafali a couple of days ago. I don't know if you know her, but she's a child psychologist, and she said kids are the greatest thing in the world. They bring us so much joy, and they wreck our heads more than anything else. And so it's both, right? But speaking of my daughter and I do this one where we just hold each other and heart to heart, like our hearts are touching, and we just breathe for like 30 seconds, a minute. But it's just like, yeah, like if she's stressed out sometimes, or if I'm stressed out, we all get angry, right? And so this is the calming mechanism where the other person will, hey, Dad, you're freaking out a little. Come here, give me a hug, and then it's like, boom, we just breathe into each other's hearts.
Yeah, 100%. It's a good way to do it, very special moment. So they'll remember it as they grow up as well.
Yeah, I think that's the same. So I love what you're doing because I'm trying to raise little leaders as well, and I see it already. Like my daughter, both kids do all the things in hockey, soccer, dance, but they're the leaders of their team, which is something I'm trying to instill with them is don't follow other people, right? Because everyone could be a follower, but it takes someone courageous to be a leader. And sometimes it's not, but it's already coming through. And she's only 8 years old, which is phenomenal. So enough about me and my kids. Let's go back to you. I think as we begin to wind down, if this episode resonates with you, please like, subscribe, share, and follow, and reach out to Craig. If you need help with anything, you've heard by this conversation exactly what kind of person he is. You've heard the tools, the framework. So reach out to Craig. And I guess I let the guests take it wherever they want before I ask my last questions, but if take it wherever you want. So if you have something to sell it. If you have a message of hope or inspiration, or combine it all together, just take it away.
Yeah, so I will combine it together. The first thing is that hope, and I'm saying it from my heart and logically as well. I've got to the end of where you can go, and it wasn't. I apologize for being so dark on this bit, but it does get brighter. I got to a point where I did try to take my own life. I got to a point where I just thought there was no light at the end of the tunnel. I was ill, constantly ill. I was in hospital all the time. And it didn't matter who told me, wife, kids, family, friends said that I'm fine or you'll be okay. I didn't see that. And what I'm trying to say is that if I can do it, if I can get from there to where I am now, you can do it too. There is no stopping you. The only thing stopping you is yourself. There is no one out there that is strong enough and powerful enough to hold you back. So make sure you do everything in your power. If you're listening to this very moment now, don't sit there and think, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next month. Do it now, because you will not regret it. Please don't let it get as hard as I did. If you do want to reach out to me, my name is Craig Maddern. You can find me on Facebook or craigmadderncoaching.com. .com, and you go to that website and you can look at my program. There's free ebooks on there for you where you can read the books and it'll help you with stress. And please reach out to me. And not only that, if you just want a chat, if you just want a talk, you can just reach out to me and I can give you some advice or just talk you through some stuff as well. So please look after yourself.
And my final question is usually how can people reach you? But you kind of just said that. So how about you tell us where we can find your book?
Yeah, so you can find my book on Amazon as How I Went from Stress and Hospital Beds to Becoming a Happy Dad. You can find that by just typing it on any Amazon. It's in America, UK, and I think internationally as well. There's only a few countries that wouldn't get it, but if your main audience is around that area, so you should be able to get it. And yeah, feel free to get it. It should be coming out on hard copy soon. It's on Kindle only at the moment. It was just a bit of a promise to myself that I would hold off until to see how it did, and it's done well enough, obviously. So we'll be bringing it on hard copy. And my advice for reading the book is, yes, please enjoy my story and see where I went with how bad it got and how dark it got. But please use the tips at the end and really do use them, and you'll be fine.
Brilliant. So reach out to Craig, and yeah, Craig, thank you so much. This was awesome. I really appreciate your time. I'm grateful for you.
Thank you very much. And everyone, please look after yourself, reach out. And men, don't forget that you don't have to do this alone.